Hello all. So I love my rail squares and I've come to think of them as a vital part of the plunge saw and rail kit. My one here is the Mark II from Benchogs. As you can see, like most, it features a little retractable support rest to keep the square and attached rail flat to your work. Other manufacturers, if they have them, go about this in a variety of ways. The Tiger tools and FC tools, for example, have fixed rests that give good support options both close to the rail and out to the end of the square. The TSO and Festool don't seem to have one at all. Arguably the best supported I've seen is the Festool FSWA angle stop rail square. Its stock has a support at the back and the protractor also serves as a support. Very nice. Shame there's no Bosch or Mafell version. The point here is, much as I like my rail square, gifted to me by Benchogs some time ago, this really bothers me when I'm ripping stock narrow enough that it doesn't catch the rest. Mightn't be such a problem on wider Makita or Festool rails, but it's a bit of a nightmare sometimes on the skinnier Bosch and Mafell ones, especially the short 800 rail as here. Not so bad on the longer 1600 here, but still enough wobble and movement for me not to trust it's remained on the mark by the time I've got the saw and clamp on. Aside from that, it's just more reassuring setting up a rail cut with a supported square. Thankfully, the Benchogs rail square has a number of fixing options, so there's a couple of straightforward fixes I'll share with you now. My first option then, my decent one if you like, I make from some 6mm alley plate. The original steel rest and thumb screws removed, I use the original rest to mark the alley plate. Pay no mind to the line already on the plate backing, that's just a remnant of marking out for one of my chair components. That's given me a fairly precise width and length to nest in the square then. Now I mark the part that will form the rest itself, making an L shape. To the bandsaw to cut the L shape then. A 6mm 10 TPI blade is decent for quick rips through alley. Careful reset of the fence, then flip over for the second cut. Now it's time to make it fit for purpose. That means screw holes first. New rest sat in position, I can flip over and punch to mark the screw locations. M4 thumb screws these, so the punch centres reasonably well through the small holes. I do a 2mm pilot hole, then open to a 5mm. Lightly chamfer the sharp edges with a grinder, which I followed with a light sand for good measure. Then finally, a quick blast with a countersink to deburr the holes. Like a glove. Now obviously this isn't retractable, but I left the original out all the time anyway, even when packed away in the rail bags. This new rest can also be mounted the other way around too, for the odd occasion you might want to have the rail square back end of the cut. This is T6 alley, so pretty stiff, but there's a little flex at its extreme end. Nothing that would be anywhere as annoying for me as no rest at all though. Works well I think, certainly well enough for the ripping down of rough sawn boards I mainly use the square and rails for these days. And doing it in alley like this, it doesn't look too janky. Won't cost the earth either. You should be able to get 150mm square of 6mm plate for under a tenner on eBay. Quick action shot of it doing its job as I square up some 50mm thick walnut. Nice. As ever though, let's not leave a good hack there. A version made from workshop scraps is what we want, innit? Old new one off then. In the middle of these Mark II squares there's a series of M6 tapped holes for accessories. I'll use these this time, and a bit of good old plywood. I measured the gap from the top of the square to the work surface and it was a little over 5mm, so you could use a 5mm packer in a pinch. No need to worry about tenths of a mil, the aim is just to stop the square tipping. I'm going to use this bit of scrap that happens to be 5.5mm though. Screw to the ply to make a T-shape. I can set it in position to mark for new holes. Flipped over, I used the 5mm drill bit from earlier to mark the centres. Then drill out with a 7mm bit to give plenty of room for the M6 screws. M6 Allen screws and a washer I'm using for the fix. And there you go. This janky mod actually gives better support coverage than the slightly fancier alley one, and just use scraps. What's not to like? You can of course use it in the other set of M6 holes too, and mounted to the opposite side, again for those few occasions you want the square at the end of the cut. So there we go, I think I've once again solved a problem no one was having but me. You never know, maybe there'll be a Mark III rail square that offers full support. I really don't know why it's taken me this long to finally snap and fix this. It's honestly bugged me since first using a rail square. Obviously, for some of the brands out there, it's not so much of an issue, and like I said, might not be an issue with the wider Festool pattern rails. Couldn't say. Still, if like me, you're a Bosch and Mafell rail user and have the Benchogs square and have been irritated by the same thing, hopefully this video will encourage you to pull your finger out and get on and fix it. The walnut, by the way, was for a recent batch of furniture pieces. I've done recent videos on some of them, like the rocking chair and the table, so go and watch them if you haven't already. I'll pop links up at the end of the vid. I'll also pop a link up to my original review of the Mark II rail square if that interests you. The Mark II rail squares from Benchogs now come black anodised with brand colour match levers if that takes your fancy and all. I'll leave links in the description below, and if you purchase anything from Benchogs, use my code BBBYT at the checkout for 5% off your order. All that said, a like, a sub or a contribution via the thanks button below is always welcome, and as always, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching.